Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Riley McManus. Britain's new monarch has given his first public address. King Charles III says he and his family feel profound sorrow as he vowed to continue his mother's lifelong service. Paul Workman reports.
I speak to you today with feelings of profound sorrow.
In a moving address to a grieving nation, King Charles III said he shares the great sadness of so many and a sense of loss that is beyond measure.
Throughout her life, Her Majesty the Queen, my beloved mother, was an inspiration, an example to me and to all my family. And we owe her the most heartfelt debt any family could owe to their mother, for her love, affection, guidance, understanding, and example.
He spoke about the Queen's warmth, humor, and her ability to see the best in people.
I declare before you all.
He described how in 1947, on her 21st birthday, she pledged to devote her life to service. Her dedication never wavering through times of joy and celebration and through times of sadness and loss. The new king vowed to follow that example.
As the Queen herself did with such unswerving devotion, I too now solemnly pledge myself, throughout the remaining time God grants me, to uphold the constitutional principles at the heart of our nation.
His arrival back in London, now a king, no longer a prince, was both solemn and overwhelming. Charles went directly to the crowd of thousands outside Buckingham Palace, shaking hands with as many people as possible, accepting their condolences and their best wishes. Some were moved to tears, others boldly moved to kisses. A moving scene as a nation and the world mourns with a grateful son.
To my darling Mama, as you begin your last great journey to join my dear late Papa, I want simply to say this: thank you. Thank you for your love and devotion to our family and to the family of nations you have served so diligently all these years. May flights of angels sing thee to thy rest.
His first address to the nation, his first walkabout, king on the first full day of his reign. Ahead of the Queen's funeral, Charles said he hoped that in spite of people's sorrow, they would remember and draw strength from the light of his mother's example. Paul Workman, CTV News, London.
The city of Thunder Bay is extending its condolences on the passing of Queen Elizabeth II. The longest-serving British monarch holds a special place in the hearts of many people in the city. The Queen and Prince Philip visited the lakehead 3 times in 1951, 1959, and 1973, and many local residents still remember seeing the royal couple in person. In honor of the Queen Elizabeth, all flags at city facilities were lowered to half-mast, and a book of condolences is now set up in the lobby at City Hall for people to sign and share their memories. Last year, when Prince Philip died, the city sent a similar book of condolences to Buckingham Palace, and the Queen herself wrote back thanking the people of Thunder Bay. City Clerk Krista Power explains why it's important to recognize the Queen's passing.
Well, as a Commonwealth country, certainly Canada, and we've seen it from our Prime Minister, it's important that the city recognize it. The city was also lucky enough to have royal visits in the past, so we have good memories of the time that Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip visited Thunder Bay, as well as other members of the royal family. We also know that the public has called, requested an opportunity to send condolences, drop off sympathy cards, potentially flowers, so we want to make that available to them if we can.
Thunder Bay residents are welcome to come and sign the Book of Condolences located in the lobby at City Hall until September 23rd. The book, along with a letter from the mayor and all sympathy cards, will be sent to Buckingham Palace soon after that. Ontario's connection to the Queen is on full display today. Flags at the Provincial Legislative Building have been lowered to commemorate her passing. Siobhan Morris has more on the tributes there.
This is a house in mourning, the flags at half-staff. Beyond the front doors, a book for members of the public to share their condolences with the royal family.
Where I went to school in Lunenburg, Nova Scotia, there was always a picture of the Queen on the wall, so there was, it was inculcated. It was inculcated and it was internalized. And I always thought that there was, it was a very important anchor to ground ourselves in.
The Premier will add his reflections on the Queen to these pages this afternoon.
Throughout her historic reign, she taught us the true meaning of selfless service and was respected and admired for her sense of duty and commitment to charity.
Up the grand staircase, a portrait of the Queen just outside the Legislative Chamber, now banded in black. MPPs have paused their work until Wednesday for a series of tributes.
Certainly, I think we'll see a lot of members wanting to be here for that moment and be part of that day. It's an important day in history, but people feel an emotional attachment to Her Majesty as well.
For some, the Queen's example is an inspiring one.
For many of us, we've entered public service and we saw how hard this Queen worked. 70 years of public service is deserving of our respect.
For the Crown's representative in Ontario,
It's actually amazing that you mentioned that.
yesterday was emotional, signing a bill into law on behalf of the Crown, the last under Queen Elizabeth II, something the Lieutenant Governor didn't want to be missed.
How important a moment it was for all of them to realize what we were doing in Her Majesty's name.
Dowdeswell says she'll remember the Queen's special spirit.
Her knowledge, her curiosity, but most of all, her humanity.
Trying to put others at ease.
The Northwest Region OPP are investigating the suspicious death of an elderly man in Shunya. OPP have identified the victim as 76-year-old Risto Lehtinen. According to police, Lehtinen was already deceased with serious injuries when officers discovered his body during a well-being check at a residence on East Floral Beach on Wednesday. The OPP Forensics Identification and Criminal Investigations units are involved in the investigation, and a post-mortem is scheduled for Monday. Police are asking anyone who may have witnessed suspicious activity in the area in the past week to contact OPP or Crime Stoppers. Today saw the final arguments in the trial of 29-year-old Peter Kiash, who's accused of killing 32-year-old Irene Barkman in October of 2018. Kiash is charged with second-degree murder along with 2 counts of uttering death threats and 1 count of forcible confinement. Today in court, the Crown highlighted the 3 witnesses inside the Dufferin Street residence who either saw Kiash assault Barkman or saw him standing over her while she lay bleeding on the floor. She suffered 4 stab wounds to the neck and died in hospital 2 days later. The defense says the testimony from the witnesses is inconsistent and should not be believed. Justice Daniel Newton will deliver his verdict at a later date. Full details about the trial can be found on tvnewswatch.com. An important step was completed today in the $800,000 job of recovering the James Whalen tug. The historic vessel has now been fully raised from the Cam River and placed onto a barge. But there are some concerns as the latest assessment of the vessel revealed damage to the hull, which caused water to leak out. Vasilios Bellos reports.
The historic James Whalen tug has now been lifted onto a barge, with next steps being transporting it down the Cam River to the Patterson dock near the swing bridge. The lifting of the 117-year-old vessel on Thursday did come with a notable mishap, with a cable near the front of the boat snapping, sending it back into the river. Now that it is out of the water, Manager of Parks and Open Spaces Corey Halverson said the tumble didn't appear to cause any damage. While this was good news for the community, the initial damage assessment did reveal some issues.
There was some damage that was allowing a larger infiltration of water than we had seen in the past. And then today during the lift as well, you could visually see where it was leaking out from the base, the front of the hull. So it looked more like corrosion damage. We don't have a full assessment at this point, but it didn't look like any kind of physical damage from a force. It would just look like essentially a hole.
There could be other damage to the vessel, but more will be known about its condition once it's on dry land. Halverson says that's the next move, with the prep work for transportation to Patterson Dock already happening.
I suspect they're going to want to proceed with moving it onto dry land as soon as possible. But the schedule itself, it really depends on setup and positioning and whatever ground mobilization work they have to do. So don't have a definitive schedule, but it's going to start very shortly.
Once the Whalen is at Patterson Dock, it is expected to stay there for 1 to 2 years. After that, it's unsure exactly what the city will do in terms of finding a permanent home for the historic tug. Vasilios Bellos, TVT News.
Thunder Bay police say a body discovered on August 31st has now been positively identified as that of 38-year-old Matthew Bouchard. The Thunder Bay man was last seen on August 21st in the 100 block of West Frederica Street. City police and civilian volunteers spent over a week searching the Westford area. Then on August 31st, police and paramedics were called to an area along Darrell Avenue, following reports of a body possibly being spotted in the nearby Cam River. Police confirmed the identification today, following continued investigation and consulting with the coroner's office. The Major Crimes Unit continues to investigate the circumstances surrounding Bouchard's death, and anyone with information is asked to contact City Police. Officials with Superior North EMS are asking City Council on Monday to approve a $680,000 tender for renovations at their Junot Avenue headquarters. The ambulance service has grown substantially over the past few years and has reached a point where expansion is needed to keep up with the demands for paramedic services. There were 4 bids for the job, ranging from over $600,000 to $1.5 million. There will be 2 renovation projects in the building once the tender is approved. The first is expanding the second floor to support the paramedic programs. EMS officials are currently leasing an off-site space and are hoping to bring that service in-house with the expansion. The second project involves adding locker rooms to support the number of paramedics now working in the facility. Chief Wayne Gates says they currently have 100 frontline employees, compared to the 70 they had when the headquarters opened. He says they have run out of space and are using lockers in the garage.
We also know going forward that we're going to have to bring more staff on. So not only will this help alleviate the current situation we're in, but as we go forward, I expect that we're going to actually have more staff that we're going to need room for. So this is good timing to get this going now.
If the tender is approved by Council, it is estimated the renovations will take 5 to 7 months. Thunder Bay Police handed out more than 100 tickets during their back-to-school traffic blitz on Tuesday. According to police, their traffic officers who were stationed in and around school zones across the city observed 56 speeding offenses, including one driver who was traveling at 92 kilometers an hour in a 40K zone. They also saw 41 drivers fail to stop at a stop sign, as well as a variety of other traffic offenses, including driving with a cell phone, failing to stop for a crossing guard, and failing to stop at a red light. Police will continue enforcing traffic laws in school and community safety zones throughout the year. A major fire hit Pass Lake campgrounds this week, but fortunately, no one was hurt. Volunteer fire crews from Pass Lake and neighboring Shunya were called to the blaze early Wednesday morning at the campground located along Highway 87. Pass Lake Fire Chief Brandon Grant says 4 trailers were completely destroyed, and all of them were vacant at the time. Firefighters managed to contain the blaze quickly and keep it from spreading. Grant says the damage is too extensive to determine a cause, but he doesn't suspect foul play and says it was more likely due to an electrical issue in one of the 4 trailers. FireCon 2022 is underway in the city, bringing firefighters from around the region to Thunder Bay for 3 days of training and testing. The event is in its 30th year and returns after a pandemic hiatus. More than 200 firefighters are in town for the event. Most are volunteer members who will need to meet new mandatory certification minimums according to a new law that went into effect in July. Thunder Bay Deputy Fire Chief David Paxton says the event is particularly important for smaller volunteer fire departments who might not have the numbers to fill a course on their own and can instead send their firefighters to a variety of courses all at once.
Obviously the training goes on at home all the time, but that ability to certify, that ability to learn and then share with their other firefighters when they come back is huge.
The training that's available ranges from classroom fundamentals to live fire, hose technique, wildland fire, and more, including 3 provincially required certification courses. Around 150 people gathered at the Delta Hotel today for a unique conference on digital transformation. The event was organized by the Northwestern Ontario Innovation Centre. Presentators discussed what sort of technology is being used today, what to expect in the future, and how to efficiently move towards it. 45 experts from international organizations to small businesses were on hand to talk about how to thrive in an increasingly digital world. Google's Director of Product Management, Scott Dougal, was a keynote speaker at the conference and explained the importance of the event.
Thunder Bay and the region needs to recognize that and start a really good conversation about what these changes mean, how the region can adapt to it. I think it's really insightful for the developers of this conference to bring this topic and all these topics together in one place for people to address.
We've seen what happened when the pandemic came and we were forced to get online and we were forced to adopt new technology. So this conference can be sort of that gateway and open some eyes to support that tech adoption.
Cool adds that the ability to work well from home was one of the big ways the pandemic showed the benefits of technology.